Harrison Ford is one of the most iconic actors of all time. Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Blade Runner. Up until the 2000s, he was the 9th highest grossing actor of all time. Unlike other actors, he didn't start as a nepo baby or a child star. He started as a carpenter. And believe it or not, but carpentry is the reason why Harrison Ford is the movie star he is today. So how did it happen? How does a woodworker become a Hollywood icon?
I want to tell stories that elevate our lives, change us, give us experiences which make us more empathetic.
Harrison Ford got his breakthrough role at the age of 31. Before that, he was just a struggling actor. He discovered his passion for acting in college by taking an acting class just to get rid of his shyness. After graduation, he moved to Los Angeles to pursue an acting career full-time and got small roles here and there. When he started out, Harrison Ford was nothing special. In his first movie role ever, he got scolded by the producer of the film for underselling the performance.
My first movie role was as a bellboy, and my lines were paging Mr. Jones, Mr. Jones, paging Mr. Jones. And then there was a guy that was in charge of what they call the new talent program, and he called me into his office. He said the first time Tony Curtis was ever in a movie, he delivered a bag of groceries. You took one look at that guy and you said, that's a movie star.
After being an actor for years, Harrison signed a deal with Columbia Pictures. He got paid $150 a week to work as an extra for the studio. This money is the equivalent of $1,000 today. Now, this sounds great for an actor that's been in the business for less than 5 years, but it wasn't enough to support Harrison, his wife, and his 2 sons, Ben and Willard. So, after less than 5 years in the film industry, he left and took up carpentry. He didn't know anything about carpentry when he began, so he had to self-teach himself, mostly by reading books and working with more experienced people than him.
I thought that if I didn't find another way of making a living, which became carpentry, I'd have to take these jobs. I had a young family and needed to put food on the table. Carpentry gave me an opportunity to pick and choose from amongst what few roles were being offered to me at that time.
That was a very smart move on the part of Harrison, because it meant that he was able to build a portfolio as an actor and provide for his family at the same time. As a carpenter, Harrison would mostly work for people in the entertainment industry. He would build cabinets, furniture, and rebuild houses. His first job was to build a studio for Sergio Mendes, and he had no idea what the hell he was doing. So he hired a bunch of other carpenters and they helped him build the studio. Even though it wasn't his end goal, he took his carpentry job seriously. He wanted to build things that he could genuinely be proud of, and as a result, he started to build a good reputation as a carpenter. He built the stage for Jim Morrison, a bed for Sally Kellerman, and a piece of furniture for Fred Roos. In 1972, Fred called him back. He gave him a spot to audition for a young movie director by the name of George Lucas. Harrison auditioned and got the part. This was his biggest role yet. He wasn't just an extra or a guy with 5 lines. He was a supporting actor, and a great one at it. Nobody really saw it coming, but American Graffiti was a success. This movie helped to launch the career of George Lucas, and I talk about it in my most recent video. Even though American Graffiti had a huge success, Harrison Ford was still relying on carpentry as his main source of income. Harrison was not being offered many roles, and his latest movie was his only notable work. However, George was already working on his next feature that he banked off of the success of American Graffiti, a space movie that no one thought would work. Luckily for Harrison, George was so impressed by his performance in American Graffiti that he called him back. The bad news was he didn't call him for an audition.
A few days later, I was asked by George if I would read with the other actors. No indication that I might be considered for a part in the film, but would I sit with all of the other candidates and read the few scenes that anybody could see. So everybody got a couple of pages of dialogue, and I was meant to explain to them what the movie was about. Read with about 300 actors, and weeks later, a month later, they asked me if I wanted to play Han Solo.
And so, just like that, Harrison Ford became Han Solo, a supporting character in the biggest film franchise. Star Wars broke the box office record for the highest grossing movie of all time and was critically acclaimed, as well as it gained a loyal fan base that still exists today. And that was the moment that Harrison went from a small-time actor to a superstar, and he knew it. He quit his job as a carpenter and went on to have one of the craziest runs in cinema, year after year. In 1979, he played a colonel in Apocalypse Now. The next year, he takes on the role of Han Solo once more. The following year, he made his debut as Indiana Jones. Then, he stars in Blade Runner and finally returns for Star Wars one last time. Using carpentry, Harrison worked with filmmakers and producers without having to risk his salary. The connections he made as a carpenter were used to land roles as an actor, and that's how he became one of the most popular actors of his generation.
This has been the timeline of my career.